What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Yamcast. Today is episode 88. The Yamcast can officially go back in time.
Yup.
Which is pretty good. Got that one right off the dome, folks. Really quick, if you love the Yamcast, do me a solid. Go to yammynoob.co, become a member right now. It's as little as $5 a month. You can watch these live before we actually show them on YouTube. It's the best thing you can do to support the channel. So go on yammynoob.co and become a member. Today we are talking a couple bits of news. We've got the new Triumph TE-1 hitting the streets, their electric superbike. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we also have proof that BEVs are actually bad. We've got some news about an Hummer EV. I know that's sacrilege, talk about four wheels here on Yammy Noob, but we actually did want to drill on this because it's so ridiculous since we have a bit of electric bike content later in the video as well. And then we also have news from BMW that has just really taken the whole zero cipher store thing to the nth degree. It's going to be hilarious. On the DM portion of today's podcast, we're going to be talking about buying and selling motorcycle experiences. Spite and I will share our own motorcycle purchase and selling experiences. Then we'll turn it over to the Discord boys, who will send a DM into Spite for us to check out their motorcycle buying and selling experiences. Lastly, on today's podcast, we have the YouTube reacts to the Zero video. We've pulled a bunch of comments, or rather our Discord boys have pulled a bunch of comments from the YouTube video we did on Zero being a total scam, which has been a knockout video for us.
Yup.
I think it's up to almost 200,000 hits.
Yeah, through the roof on that one.
Yeah, that was a really solid upload. We've got some great comments we're going to look through and have a good discussion and kind of a post-mortem analysis on that video. But stick around. It's going to be a good one. Alrighty, Spite. Got picture-in-picture going. What bit of news you want to talk first? You want to talk two-wheeled first?
Let's start off with two wheels. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So this is one piece of news that we have been following ever since its inception. The Triumph TE-1 is officially in production and a physical object that you can go ride.
Very cool.
So this is, they have the bike actually out. They were at an event and they had it on track doing the thing.
Yeah.
Gotta say, that looks really cool.
It looks really cool. It looks super cyberpunk, super futuristic. The frame design is badass. And it's not using a Daytona frame. Look at that.
Look at that sub, or the swing arm. It's like the whole swing arm arcs.
Yeah, it's really cool. So the first thing I want to hit up with this TE-1, and let's get the bad news out of the way. It is not going to go into production.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I was a little surprised hearing this news. I was like, oh, I thought this was going to be y'all's like electric superbike, but instead they're using it as a educational tool to allow them to be making more viable electric motorcycles in the future, right?
Because this is, I mean, let's be real. This is probably the space they want to be in with production motorcycles, production electric bikes, because they can make a load of money on bigger dollar items, but this is also a market that not a lot of people can buy into. So if you want wide adoption, you got to be a lot lower. But I mean, it's just, everything about this looks cool and futuristic and kind of makes me want to ride it.
Yeah.
You know?
I bet you it's good.
I wonder what the throttle feels like.
I know. I wonder too. That's Brandon Posh pulling a nice little wheelie on that bike too. I bet that throttle feels pretty good to be able to pop a nice wheelie like that.
Yeah, I mean, that is the one Achilles heel that we keep coming back to, is that the throttle feel doesn't feel right. Yeah. We also won't shut up about the fact that Triumph's fueling on their internal combustion engines is just magnificent.
It is so extra buttery smooth.
So I wonder if they can solve the throttle problem.
Yeah, I feel like if anyone could, they could.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see what kind of electric vehicles they will make, having had all this knowledge now to, build something like this. I mean, to make something like this from basically the ground up, they've never made an electric vehicle before. They had to make a bespoke frame for it, figure out the motor, figure out the batteries, like do all these things. So a lot of the stuff on there is speed 1200, right? Like, it's super similar, so a lot of it was already known how to do it, but just making it work around the electric bike platform was probably pretty challenging.
Yeah, because it was their first at bat.
Yeah.
And I mean, making 175 horsepower
Yeah.
out of their first electric bike. Hell yeah.
Yeah. And it's just really cool to see now because we've got the Triumph TE-1, Ducati's making the Moto E bike. So, I mean, It's starting to happen, you know?
Yes.
It's starting to happen.
I love how quickly the Ducati pivot happened. They were like, we will never make a
That was quoted from their
electric bike.
CEO.
From their CEO.
Yep.
They're like, we'll do synth gas instead.
Yep.
We'll never make an electric motorcycle. And then they're like, you know what? Let's see if we can buy Moto E, just a little under the radar a little bit. Maybe sneak it past some people.
My favorite thing that's going to happen is they're going to, win Moto E. And they'll be like, see, we are a world championship contending motorcycle manufacturer. I'm just waiting until GP is all Ducatis and like, see, we can win GP. We did it. It's like, shut the up, Ducati.
Oh, man. I really love the way that this angle looks on this bike. It looks so cool.
Yeah. If you scroll down a little bit, we've got feedback from Brandon Posh. He says, I got to peg this thing all the way. Well, this sounds a little weird. He says you got to peg it, but I got to peg this thing all the way from 0 to 100% throttle, and it is unbelievably quick. It pulls like crazy, the American Racer said. I think this would be a really nice motorcycle to ride on the street, just based on how nimble and agile it is and how light it feels. That's good news.
That is good news.
But he's also a paid Triumph spokesperson, so what can you really do? I don't know if he's still racing the 765 in BSB, but I know that he has some connection with Triumph, and I'm sure he's on their payroll in some capacity.
Well, I mean, remember when Marquez did the video about the Fireblade?
It's so funny. He was full pin on the blade on the back straight of some track, and he's like, one hand off. He's like, it's pretty nice, pretty good power for the enthusiasts. It's not bad.
I mean, imagine... The thing about these bikes is that there's still a lot of problems for the enthusiast, right? We see them as these early adopter things, which tends to be the realm of the enthusiast. But the Zero, apparently, where you're going to go test this theory, it can only do 2 laps before it overheats.
That's what Chris told me.
So
go see.
That's not great.
Not good. Now, here at the bottom, it says, what's more, Triumph says it will do a full track day session when ridden at fast group speeds with a 0 to 80% recharge time of 20 minutes.
Whoa, that's awesome.
The whole bike weighs in at a claim 220 kg, 22 kilos more than a fully fueled speed triple, but 4.5 kg less than Ducati's V21L prototype, which is being developed for next year's Moto E race series and providing a test bed for future Bologna-built battery bikes. Good alliteration there at the end. That's a good weight. It's 22 kilos more than a fully fueled speed triple. That's about 45 pounds more than a speed triple. Not great, not awesome.
It's about 500 pounds, I think.
About 500 pounds. No, the new speed triple is actually pretty light. I think it's only about 420, 415.
So 470, 480. Yeah, that's heavy, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Could be a whole lot worse with these EVs. I think the Zero is 500.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. So it's really cool to see this bike actually be rideable now.
Yeah.
I've been following it for so long, all the way from its inception to now.
So here's the interesting part. It says, just because the TE-1 is sporty, it doesn't mean future production bikes will follow suit. They're saying that a lot of the guys have been working on it. They're going to move on to the other production electric vehicles, and they're going to make other stuff. So as a brand, we don't make utilitarian vehicles. We don't have a scooter to go down to the shops on. It will be something that's a Triumph. It will be an electric Triumph, but it won't be this. It doesn't have to be a scooter or a super bike, quite clearly. There's a range of products between those two, and I think that is where you're going to see the opportunity can be.
Trident E.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the first one they'll do. Is Trident E.
Yep.
I think that would actually be a good bike for that. It's not, once you get it past 600 miles, it turns into a speed triple. But before that,
you got to pay monthly to unlock that.
Yeah.
Triumph won't do that.
I fucking hope not.
I hope, yeah. I hope.
Leading on to our next news topic. But, it's the right platform. It's small-ish. It's city-ish, so they don't need to put a big crazy motor in there that's going to drain the battery really fast.
Yeah.
I think if they could get like 150 combined out of it with like a lower intermediate kind of engine or motor, something putting down like something that's a little bit more zooted up than the one that's in the Grunt. Because the Grunt is doing like 50 and 75.
Yeah.
I think that would be really good.
Yeah, that wouldn't be so bad. That would be more like a Harley Del Mar or Livewire Del Mar. Excuse me. Sorry. Sorry. But it is cool to see that Triumph started this project and they delivered on it. They're like, we made an electric superbike, like we did it. This was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But as we know, EVs have some drawbacks. Key among them is listed in this article here. It says the new Hummer EV produces more emissions than a gas-powered sedan. It says the Hummer EV emits 21 grams of carbon dioxide per mile more than a gas-powered Chevy Malibu.
That's not great.
It's not great. So this is the thing we always come back to with electric vehicles, and there's a lot to say about this. There's so much to say. I think the first thing I want to get people to understand is that just because you buy an electric vehicle, like, yes, you're not emitting gas, but if you're plugging into an infrastructure that is still using fossil fuels, that's why you see stuff like this where it's saying it emits more carbon dioxide, right? Because you're still having to tap in to existing fossil fuel infrastructure, which is not great.
Yep. And it's not like we have a world where solar panels are efficient enough to charge this freaking behemoth.
Yeah.
I think that wasn't there a Prius that had solar panels on the roof that was just good enough to power the air conditioner or something like that?
No, but that's kind of cool.
I'm pretty sure that was a thing. There was a car that was out that it had a roof of solar panels that was only good to power the AC unit, which, to be honest, an AC unit is a very heavy-duty piece of equipment.
It is.
Drops your gas mileage substantially while you're running it. So that's pretty good, but still.
Yeah. Now, it is important to note that an OG H1, right, the OG, like, original Hummer, it emitted, 300 grams of carbon dioxide per mile?
So the Hummer EV is far more efficient than the original H1 Hummer, which emitted 889 grams of carbon per mile.
Okay, so when you put it into that perspective, it's like, okay, like it emits more than a gasoline-powered Chevy Malibu, but a Chevy Malibu is, it's just like a little passenger car. And if it's compared to an original Hummer, it's way more efficient.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it means we're trending up, but I mean, it is still 341 grams per mile versus the Bolt EV at 92 grams per mile, which I'm pretty sure, doesn't the Bolt do the thing where the engine recharges the battery?
The recharge thing?
Yeah.
I think so. I think it does something like regenerative recharging or whatever.
Yeah, like you put gas in it, but it doesn't actually have like a gas motor. It's just got like a little generator that runs on gas that powers the battery.
I think, stuff like this, it serves much more as a kind of like flagship Halo Flex vehicle idea thing rather than something that people are going to use to, help the environment out. Because if I remember correctly, this Hummer EV is like well over $100,000. It's like $140,000.
Yeah, it is a eye-wateringly expensive vehicle that also does 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah, so it's got crazy performance. All these EVs are all juiced up to the moon. And it does beg a different question of like, should you sell to the general public something that makes 1,000 horsepower and weighs 9,000 pounds? Because that just that sounds like a weapon of war. It's like, why does this thing exist for consumers to purchase?
Force equals mass times acceleration.
Yeah.
That's a lot of mass accelerating real fast.
These things are tall. They're dangerous for pedestrians, and I don't really see the need for anyone to own something like this. But Americans love nothing more than owning gigantic vehicles and looking stupid. So at least they do it now, emitting a bit less carbon dioxide, right?
A bit.
Just a bit. But I think the Hummer EV kind of exists in the same fringe groups as people who buy zero SRSs and all these other things. Like, it's such like greenwashing kind of shit. It's such like, I'm buying this to look environmentally friendly while I still live an incredibly unsustainable lifestyle, ordering shit off Amazon every day and consuming foods and products that are not sustainably sourced and, owning a 6,000 square foot McMansion and keeping it at 65 degrees 24/7, like there's so much other shit you can do to help the environment.
Yeah, but as we've also mentioned a lot before when we're talking about being green, there's a lot the individual can do, but when it comes to like actual mass production of greenhouse gases and pollution and stuff, it's all on the corporations at this point.
It is. However, the only caveat to that, in my opinion, is demand follows supply follows demand follows supply, right? So like the only reason those companies emit as much is because we've all decided that we want to demand goods and services for this much money. So it's like, okay, well, if it costs this much money, there's going to be all these externalities, right? Like you can't have both yet, right? With our current technological understanding, you can't produce goods and services for this much money and have no externalities at all, right? Basically, if you wanted to make things sustainably, you'd have to pay more. But Americans like, oh, pay more? Oh my God, I can't. No way can I pay more because inflation's already running out of control. And this isn't an economics podcast, but you see where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, there's a whole mathematic Ouroboros that goes within all of this that we cannot unpack here. But I thought it was kind of funny when we talked about how there was that study showing that battery vehicles aren't so great, that we see this like flagship battery vehicle that is absolutely getting trounced by everything else. Yeah. So
now I do want to point out to the folks at home that you may not see it on video, but Spite and I are doing our part for the environment here because the office is currently a balmy 81 degrees.
Oh my God, it's so hot in here.
It's not by choice, I will say. It's because this piece of office we're moving in a couple weeks and it just gets hot as hell. So yeah. Anyways, speaking of hot, BMW's got some news about heated seats, right?
If you want your butthole to be a little bit warmer in those wintry months, all you got to do is you got to pay BMW $18 a month.
Oh my God.
And they will keep your heated seats active.
Okay, so this is again four-wheeled news, but it kind of follows upon the Cypher store thing and the microtransaction bull we were talking about. Let me ask you this. For an average BMW buyer, what the is $18 a month?
Nothing.
It's nothing. So why do this? Why do this? Why?
Because they can.
It's just a squeeze. Everything's getting squeezed, man. It's driving me nuts.
Because you know for a fact they're not like, okay, well, if we're getting $18 a month recurrent revenue, somebody has a car for 5 years, 10 years, that we're gonna get 20 times 12 is a lot of cash. I can't do this math off the top of my head because I've been up for like 12 hours.
20 times 12 is 240.
And then we've got that times 10, which is 2,400.
Yep.
Yeah, $2,400 over 10 years.
Multiplied by all the BMW owners, and then some bean counters like, look how much we add to the bottom line by doing nothing, by putting a switch on the heated seats.
We beat LY. Yay!
Number go up. Number go up. Yay! Everything's fine. Everything's fine. The number went up.
But this is the sort of stuff that terrifies me.
I hate this. Yeah.
Like it's bad enough that Zero is like, yeah, it's only $2,300 for you to charge your motorcycle twice as fast. That's really shitty.
Yeah.
That's supremely shitty, especially because when we plug that Zero in, we can hear the motor spin twice as fast.
Yeah.
So we know it's capable of doing it right now, and then it's just like, oh, wait a minute, you don't have the Fast Boy patch.
And then boop.
Yep. But what if it's like, oh, you can pay, $10 a month for fast charging for the life of the bike, and then they're like, well, that's going to cause them to spend more over the life of their motorcycle, but they're going to not think that way. It's so slimy.
It's so slimy. And where does it end? Where does it end with this subscription-based bullshit for like, oh, look, Spite, you can pay for unlimited access for $414, $415.
But what is unlimited? Because it's in quotations.
I don't like that.
It's like unlimited, but it's like your cell phone plan. You get an unlimited data plan. You get 15 gigs of like free unlimited, and then it throttles down. So like you get your heated seats have 3 stages. Yeah. And for the first couple weeks of the month, you get all 3 buttons, and then it starts backing you down to 2 out of 3 and then 1 out of 3.
Yeah.
And then it's like if you fart on the seat, it's going to be more efficient than the heated seat.
So someone on chat had a good one here. They were saying that oh no one is using the indicator subscription on our BMW. Yeah, there's like, I'm going to go ahead and opt out of that one real quick. Not going to need that. Yeah, again, where does it end, I hate that they actually thought about this calculus of like, okay, like we're going to install the heated seats in the car, so we're floating that cost, but we're going to hope that people opt into it. It's just crazy.
Okay, so we've got a whole bunch of packages here. So we've got the safety camera information, which alerts you to fixed traffic enforcement cameras. Okay. Driving assistant, which is the lane keep assist, which your truck just has.
Yeah.
Your front heated seating, your high beam assistant for $10 a month.
The freaking Corolla I rented in Laguna Seca last weekend had lane keep assist. You tell me the BMW, I need to spend extra to have that? It's a freaking BMW,
and it's $35 a month. That's brutal. The iconic Sound Sport. A driving experience that stirs all the senses.
What the does that mean?
Unmistakable sporty BMW sound.
Oh my god, dude.
So that's just going to be like, for $99, you can have the speakers play engine sounds for you.
If this is where bikes are going, I want to just go ahead and launch myself off of this planet. I feel like bikes are still safe from all this bullshit, For now. I did want to read a couple comments people had on checks. It was quite funny. Baby Blue says, BMW boldly treating customer satisfaction the way my dominatrix treats my satisfaction. Delayed and behind a paywall. Someone else said, what do they say here? Sorry, give me a sec, folks. Oh, yeah. Zaguero says, late on payment, no airbag deployment.
Oh.
Yeah. You didn't pay your BMW? Guess you're going to die if you crash.
See, that's one thing that I could see with motorcycle airbags.
Yeah.
Be like, yeah, it's going to work as long as you keep paying us $5 a month. Oh, shit, your credit card didn't.
Yeah.
go?
Guess it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. The subscriptification of the world is just driving me insane. So yeah, car boys, you can keep it. We're gonna stick to bikes over here. If this is where things are going, we want nothing of it. Later in the podcast, we're gonna do the YouTube comments to the Cypher Store and the Zero Scam video we made. But for now, it's time to jump over to the DM portion of the podcast.
Let's do it.
All right, folks, welcome to the DM portion of the podcast. Today, we're talking about the motorcycle buying and selling experience. If you're a beginner rider and you've never bought or sold a motorcycle, it's actually quite different than selling anything or buying anything else. I can attest to that. It's a very interesting and kind of draconian and labyrinthine process that you have to go through sometimes whenever you go to a dealership or through a private sale. So for the folks over on Discord, please drop Spite a DM about your motorcycle buying or selling experience, and we will read them on the podcast. We'll start off with ourselves as usual. Spite, talk a little about your motorcycle buying and selling experience.
Buying has always been really easy for me, honestly. Yeah. I got relatively lucky early on at getting a credit card that I just zeroed out every month, so I had pretty good credit. So
not good enough to buy an Indian, though.
Not
famously.
Good enough to buy the Indian. Okay, this is a good story.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at buying a Scout 60. There's a 0% for 72 on these Scouts because they're trying so hard to catch Harley Davidson. This is 2016. And they're really trying to break into the market. And I go there and I'm like, hey, I want a Scout. That promotional offer is really cool. Let's see if I can get it. And they're like, yeah, sure. They come back a few minutes later and like, you didn't qualify. We can't do it. And I'm like, damn it. Okay. What's the best you can do? Oh, it's like 17%. And I was like, you 17%. And I was sitting there. One of the guys got up and left as he was going back to his like financing guy. Start flipping through the papers that he pulled. I was 748 and they wanted a 750.
Yeah, it's negligible.
So I'm
That's
like,
stupid.
I literally, before he came back, got up and left, and then I went into a Harley dealer, and they were like, yeah, we'll get you whatever.
They're like, we'll approve anything you want.
Anything you want.
You sure you don't want a road glide? We'll get it for you.
So yeah, I was able to get, my buying experience has always been pretty easy.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest pain in the ass is arguing with people.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. Because I'm in the industry, sort of. Yeah. I understand how this works, and I'm like, you can cut that, you can cut that, you can cut that, because you're not making any money on this motorcycle. You're making it all on that used bike that you have out front.
Yeah.
Don't lie to me.
Yeah.
then my only selling experience was the DRZ. That was actually remarkably easy.
Yeah.
I
was surprised you got that sold as simply and cleanly as you did.
Yeah, I listed it originally at like $6, then I dropped it to $5, and I sold it for $4,300, I think.
Which honestly is pretty damn good for that DRZ.
It's pretty good for that DRZ. And the guy wrote it. He was like, okay, I'm thinking like $4,000 for the bike. And I was like, nah, I'm feeling more like 45.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, he wrote it. And he's like, okay, $4,300. And I just counted the cash, and we were good to go.
Yep. Yeah, and then for the folks who don't know, for a private sale like that, it doesn't quite end there because you got to give the title over to the guy, and then when you buy the bike privately, you got to take the title to your DMV. You got to bring the inspection for it, get it all done. It's pretty simple. It's just an extra stage in the process, which if you've never bought a vehicle like that, can be a little intimidating because if you go to the dealership, they'll just do it all for you.
Yep.
But yeah, what's funny is you have financed a lot of vehicles because you can get pretty good interest rates and those sort of things. Mm-hmm. I, however, have mostly bought my vehicles cash. Mm-hmm. I don't really like financing things that I'm probably just going to blow up in a couple months, you know. I feel like financing stuff, unless you're, like I finance my truck just because I'm like, I'll probably have it for 5 or 6 years, but a bike, I'm always like, it's always living on borrowed time, you know. Like, do I really want to pay interest on something like that? But yeah, for me, the selling experience has been pretty decent. I've sold my KTM RC390, the WR250R, my R3, and I think that's it. So I've only sold 3 motorcycles. I've given away a whole bunch of them, but I have not sold that many, I don't think. And, you know, it's pretty simple. You can just post stuff up on Craigslist, and I actually really like Cycle Trader, honestly. It's I know it's like $60 to list it, but you get way higher quality people. If you put your bike up on like Facebook Marketplace or even Craigslist, oh my God, you get so much dirtbag, scummy, scammy, for lack of a better term.
Yep.
So I actually really like putting it up on Cycle Trader, taking those good photos. You know, people don't realize that you need to have a little photo shoot with the bike. If you don't look good in the photos, someone's going to want to buy it. And then you always jack the price way up because we live in the current used bike market. You can get away with jacking. You know, the prices on R6s now are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It is. R6s are turning into the new 240 SXs from Nissan. Where like people are just like, I know what I got. They don't make them anymore, and I know you want them. Like my buddy's clapped out race bike R6 has been crashed like 8 times. He could probably sell it for like $6,000. And I'm like, that's a $1,500 motorcycle.
And somebody will pay $6,000 for it.
Somebody will pay it. But yeah, I will say, I think having bought from dealerships and privately, honestly, if I can get a good price from a dealership, I do prefer buying from a dealership.
Me too.
Honestly. Just because like they take care of the title, they do all the bullshit. Like it's just a little easier. And also if you want to finance, you can much easier. Financing a private sale, especially for a motorcycle that's a small amount of money, relatively speaking, is pretty hard, honestly.
Yeah.
Like a credit union is going to be like, what, you want like a $5,000 loan? Like what, why, for what for? You know, like they're probably going to think you're going to go buy drugs with it or something. It's not enough money.
Which is kind of a funny statement when you think about it.
It is funny, but you know, I mean, something like $5,000, you almost feel like you could put on a 0% credit card, but then you're like, okay, can the seller like do like a point of sale with the credit card? They can't, you know, so a dealership gives you a little bit better buying options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always kind of nice to go into a dealership and just know you don't have to deal with actually like handing them money if you don't need to.
Yeah.
Like I always put down, even when I bought the KLR, I traded in, well, I had the cash from the DRZ sale, but I put down a little bit of extra cash anyway.
Yeah.
Just because financing less, you get better options, blah, blah, blah. You just don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
So it's easy peasy.
Yep. Let's see what the boys had to say about buying and selling bikes.
Starting off with Full Metal Corgi.
Full Metal Corgi says, I've purchased 7 bikes in my life and sold 5 of them. All of them were from Craigslist, so there was always an underlying sketchiness to every deal. I've been fortunate enough in life to not have had financed one. That being said, all but 2 were partial trades. The first bike purchase was by far the most difficult, so I advise everyone to get the motorcycle before you get married. Get that Busa early so you can always tell her it's been in my life longer than you have. Honestly, I really agree with this. I really think that if you're serious about someone, it is nice to already have the bikes when you get into the relationship. That way they already know. They already know what they're getting into.
I got my bike after dating my girlfriend for like 5 years. So
I'm not saying it happens all the time, but
I'm just saying, it. Sometimes you don't have to worry about it, and that's really kind of how it should be. So maybe think about that's the situation the Jixer squid inhabits.
It's true. It's true.
The Dr. Zero is next.
The Dr. Zero has something about your Sportster, so maybe we skip that one.
Slow HD is next.
Slow HD says, my first Harley was an interesting story. Long story short, I worked with the salesman for a couple months to find it. We ended up hanging out together quite a bit and even helped him with some home improvement. They had a 91 Softail Custom listed for $9,000 sitting in front of his desk the whole time, and neither of us even looked at it. He sold it to me for $6,200. The bike had 6,500 miles on it when I bought it in 2009. That is a long time ago. 2009, that was 13 years ago. Yeah, I don't think you could get those kind of prices on a Softail like that nowadays, honestly.
God, no.
$6,200?
Good luck.
Yeah, no way.
The only thing is it's old. It's the 91.
It is old,
so,
yeah.
But, I mean, Harleys were the same since forever.
They kind of are.
Aaron 5252.
All right, Aaron says, traveled 180 miles to buy my Ninja 400 from an army base. Used a rental car to pick it up. Everything went good. Agreed on the price. So went to return my rental car to drive the bike back to Phoenix. When I got dropped off after closing the rental car company and got the bike back to their place, red flags, went to sign the title, had someone else's name printed on the front. Oof. Always got to double check that. Their name signed on the back and also not notarized, which is required for sale. Agreed to pay through Zelle, but had a cap of $1,500 for a total payment needed of $4,500. This sounded messy. Called the DMV to see what we could do, and they said I would need the person on the front to sign a document. The person signed the back to sign and have it all notarized. Both people were in a court-martial and would not be back in time. Ended up leaving the title with then giving a down payment and taking the bike home with me, all with the bill of sale. 3 weeks later, it all got cleaned up, but was very worried about the police showing up saying I stole the bike. Yeah, so moral of the story here for private sales, double check the VIN, double check the name, double check everything, because it could easily be a sketchy sale. Easily.
Yeah. Had the same thing happen with my DRZ, where the guy never actually transferred the title.
Yeah.
Here in Texas, it's actually not that bad. You just get a bonded title, and it essentially skips the ownership of the guy in the middle. It basically is like the guy on the front of the title, guy or gal, transferred it directly to you, and the middle guy never happened. Mm-hmm. It helps that the dude never registered the bike because he was an absolute like crackhead or whatever.
You really did rescue that DRC.
Mm-hmm. And now it's living with some just like middle-aged, chartered accountant up in Round Rock. So,
and it's all like Yami Noob liveried out.
Yep,
which is cool.
I'm hoping that DRZ's living a good life. Matthew DFW is next.
Matthew DFW says, bought a bike from a large dealer network on short notice. Didn't check terms and conditions. 10% APR loan hit me over the head with a baseball bat.
Go refinance, my dude.
Yeah, you can go refinance that and get a lower rate. I will say that's not the worst interest rate I've ever seen on a bike. I have seen some guys pull the trigger. I think I saw one time on Discord.
What was the Trident?
Yeah, the Trident I think had like an 18% attached to it.
With like a $1,400 or $14,000 note.
Yeah, it was like $14,000 for a Trident. I'm like, this is insane. Mm-hmm. Like, what? This is like a $8,000 motorcycle. Where are they finding $6,000?
Yeah. Funny thing about this one, I too had an issue with this. My VFR, I bought it at 9% from the dealer, and then I went and refinanced basically the next day for 4.5%. So check your credit unions.
Yeah.
Jakers is next.
Jaker says, I'm a bit of an idiot when it comes to buying motorcycles. Same, my man. My first street legal motorcycle was a 1981 Honda CM200 that I bought from a friend for $500. It was a hardtail converted and looked cool, but it was small and very uncomfortable to ride. I ended up selling the bike to my apprentice for $600, made $100 on that deal. He had a kid a year later and needed the money, so I bought it back for $600, and now it just takes up space in my garage. Someone please buy my crap bike. Dear God, please. Little baby CM200. I don't think you're going to get that sold, honestly. Nope. Not in America, anyways. That's I don't even know how the hell you found that thing.
Does it have a front brake? It must, because it's got a lever.
It's got a lever, but I don't see a wire going down to it. I don't see a hose.
Maybe that's it right there.
Maybe. It's like a flat tracker.
Yup.
Turn it into a flat tracker.
There
Why
you
not?
go. Mars 5K.
And then we got to do Andronicus next because we
Did I
skipped him.
skip him?
Yeah.
My bad.
Mars 5K says, just bought my first Triumph a month ago. I called my bank ahead of time to see what my loan approval would be. Once done, I drove to the dealership and spent the next 5 hours sitting and riding bikes. Eventually settled on the Bonnie T120, best purchase experience I've ever had. It helped knowing what my bank would approve a loan for ahead of time. Kept the what if questions to a minimum. Plus, Triumph in St. Louis puts the out the door cost on the sticker. Excellent experience. That's pretty nice.
That
also,
actually is nice.
It's also nice that they let you be there for 5 hours sitting and riding the bikes.
Dude, when I bought my KLR, I was in that dealership for like 6 or 7 hours. It took forever for this KLR to work.
What was going on?
I don't know. I was in and out faster at the Kyle store.
Yeah.
Which those guys, they don't care about. They don't care at all.
Yeah.
But somehow I was in for like an entire day buying this damn KLR.
Yeah. I will say that is why I do like the Eurocycle experience of getting it delivered straight to you.
Yeah.
It's nice just doing all the paperwork remote, sending out a check or getting your financing sorted, and then the bike just shows up.
Mm-hmm.
It's really nice.
Although if you're in the dealership and you have the patience, like I wore these dudes down because they just came back with a note, and I was like, no. And then they finally got it to where I needed to be. So
yeah,
that's cool.
They were like, this guy doesn't value his time at all. He's been here for 5 hours.
I was just sitting there writing lists, being like, okay, I'll get on with it.
Yeah. Andronicus here says, motorcycle buy story, had to travel 3 hours to get what I wanted, as there was nothing around my local area, Svarpill and 401. And that was lucky, because if the bike hadn't shown up at the dealer I got it at, I was looking at a 5-hour trip for one. Other than the surprise cost, about $1,000 over due to fees, etc., it was point at the bike, wait, sign some papers, swipe a card, and here's your bike, not GTFO. That's kind of normally how it goes, honestly. Like, I think a lot of people think that there's, all this paperwork and stuff, but all of it's just like, you're releasing us from this, you're releasing us from that. There's a lot of that in the paperwork process.
Yep.
I will say, if you buy cash or check, it is a whole lot faster than if you finance. If you finance, you're going to be sitting there for a while after they go back to the bank, and the bank comes back with the rate. You don't like the rate, you try to find another one, and blah, blah, blah. That can take a while.
It's part of the reason why I was in there for 7 hours. But
yeah.
I just was sitting there doing my lists.
Yeah. So when you walk in there with a checkbook, you can negotiate a little bit better, and you're just like, what are we going to pay for this bike today?
Mm-hmm.
I got the money right here. What's going to happen?
Next up, we got Irish Trash 5.
Irish Trash 5. I went to a dealer for a test drive once. I had called ahead, and when I showed up, it went really smooth, went for the ride, and when I got back, I had all the papers pulled up and tried to get me to sign as though I had agreed to marry him and was suddenly backing out. Not trying to sell me on it, just pretending that I had speedily agreed to the purchase. Needless to say, I never went back. Oh, so it sounds like that salesman started getting a little presumptuous.
Yeah, one thing that I encountered last time when I bought the KLR was they had this it was really confusing even to me, where they were like, yeah, you can take a test ride, or you can do this 10-mile 10-minute thing or whatever. It's like you ride for however long, and if you don't love the bike, you bring it back, but you have to sign all the paperwork and actually buy the motorcycle.
Oh, weird.
It's like this thing where it's like, yeah, if you want to buy it sight unseen, but you want a return policy, as long as you get it back to us, under 10 miles, you're good.
Yeah.
But then if you're over 10 miles, you're
yeah.
So I was like, no, let's just wait. Let's take a test ride and then go through with it.
I've seen a lot of people on our Discord saying that their local dealers are very cagey about test rides.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I've never had that problem. Like, I remember when I bought the Desert Sled, I bought it from Ducati Austin, bought it brand new. They were super cool. They were like, yeah, go take it out, go try it out. Mm-hmm. I've never had an issue with test rides.
Yeah, test rides are weird. I've had 3 or 4 different test ride experiences, and my best one was at a Harley dealer.
That makes sense.
The Harley dealer, they took me on this great ride through some. It wasn't proper twisty roads, but it was, it's down by Onion Creek's Cowboy Harley, and they have a whole bunch of pseudo twisties around there.
Yeah,
and they'll run you through this big loop that's actually really nice. Whereas TJ's, they're like, all right, you're gonna go down to Breaker, you're gonna hang a left, you're gonna get on the highway, and you're gonna get off at the next off ramp, and then you're gonna hang a left and come back.
Yeah.
And that's how you decide whether or not. Literally, when I test rode the SMCR, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I was just like, damn, this has got a lot of torque. This will be fun. But a lot of test rides, they don't do good ones, shall I say.
No, not really. I think the automotive and car world test drive experience is a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot better. And I think it's because they can be in the car with you, and so they're pretty chill about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What's funny is when I bought my truck, they were super chill. It's a freaking $80,000 truck, and they were like, yeah, here's the keys. Go try it out. I was like, this is a very expensive truck. You're just handing me the keys to. You don't even know me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could go do some shit with this. But, yeah, I think the bikes is just like, they don't know your experience level. And I have seen people buy, motorcycles and immediately crash them leaving a dealership. So that would really suck if you're getting someone to test ride a bike and then they just immediately bin it. You're like, I have a huge problem now.
I'm pretty sure Ride Now doesn't do test rides on leader bikes. That's anecdotal, so don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure they don't.
I could see that.
Safetyquid is next.
Safetyquid says, so I traded my dad's old Honda Valkyrie. He passed away on 4/19/21 in a motorcycle accident. Rest in peace. Sorry to hear it. I love the bike. It was just too big. I'm 5'8", 160. Great ride. Took it all over, but wanted a sport bike. Traded in on a 2014 Honda CB 1000R. Refused to test ride and bought the bike anyway. After coming home and changing the oil, the bike did not start/run for over 2 weeks, and the dealership told me to piss off, and they refused to fix it. After 2 weeks, I finally found out that the plug wires had not been run completely wrong. I had no idea how the bike ran at the dealership. I also never touched the plugs. By the way, I have a 13% rate on the bike also. After owning it for over 3 months and 2,500 miles, I love the bike. Worth the headache. That sounds like quite the headache.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a big interest rate, big headache owning it. I actually had that happen with my first Daytona. I took it in for its first service, and somehow they routed the coolant pipe too close to the chain. I don't know why they were working near the coolant or the chain. And when I got back, it was just leaking coolant everywhere. And I was like, that's not normal. And I had to get it towed back, and they had to replace it. And I was like,
my street rod, the overflow lines off the coolant system were misrouted. So like it was pulling coolant out of the wrong one and dumping coolant into it wasn't pooling coolant into the radiator, and it was dumping all the coolant out of the radiator.
Yeah.
And so it was because it was moving that it didn't overheat. But it literally the coolant overflowed.
It's also a Harley. It's not going to overheat.
Yeah, let's be real.
It is funny. You probably bring it in, and probably some old head in there like, "This is why I don't make them liquid cooled. That's why I keep them air cooled."
I look at it and I go in, and the guy's like, I tell him, I was like, yeah, it's leaking coolant, and he's like, it's leaking what now?
Coolant? What is that?
Otter Plus is next.
Otter Plus. I bought both of mine private party and lucked out. The first was a 2016 CBR 500R. Shut up, Yam. With 11K miles for 4K. The previous owner drove it to my house for me. That's really cool.
That is cool.
The second was a 2017 SV650. Nice. Give you some snaps for that. With 2K miles for 5.5K. That one was fun because it was pouring down raining and I forgot everything but my helmet. Both were a great deal because the previous owners got tired of regular maintenance. Their loss, my gain. Both were CycleTrader, by the way. Less BS, no sketchy listings. Totally agree, man, CycleTrader. I know it sucks to pay the $60 listing fee, but you do get much better finds on there. Reputable people. Because if you have at least $60 to your name to list a motorcycle, you're probably not a crackhead.
Yeah, exactly. New Jersey Damo is next.
New Jersey Damo says, I sold my 2012 Gixxer Thou at Christmas. It had finance on it, and people are funny about that. We can actually talk about that. I was very open and honest about everything and worked with the buyer to assure that there was no security left on it. Transaction went well because I was understanding towards the buyer and worked with them. Excuse me. My latest 2018 CBR 600 I bought sight unseen. The bike overall wasn't bad, but the seller certainly wasn't open and honest about it. Bike has been dropped off at some stage as there's been damage on the fairings. Not bad, but my OCD's kicking my ass and I'll replace them at some stage. Plus, they'd rounded a bolt off that I had to fix. Oh, and they had photos of the CBR 600 online, which didn't show any of the issues. Oof. A lot to unpack there. So, First of all, buying a bike with a loan on it. Man, I've done it once before. And the only reason I did that was it was actually my Husky that I bought. It still had a loan on it. I got all the information from this guy. I knew his driver's license, his address, his place of work. I knew everything about the guy. And I also figured, I was like, if I don't get the title for this bike, it's basically an off-road bike, so it's pretty much fine. I did end up getting the title, so it worked out. But normally, I don't like loans on bikes.
The only time I would do that is if it was somebody I knew really well.
Yeah.
You know, like if I was buying it from a...
I did that with Brandon in my 250.
Mm-hmm.
He was still paying it off, and then I just paid it off for him, basically.
Yep. And that's usually the way it should go, is basically like you pay off. It's not like you take over payment.
No.
It's you pay off the bike, and then you get
thing.
the bike.
Yeah.
You know, so... Magic Toaster's next.
Magic Toaster. My only experience on buying a bike has been with the Energica. I searched around, and since I was interested in getting some electric machine to go fast, and then finally my bike out in California with 10K with only 3K miles on it. It was a trade-in from a guy who got an H2 instead. That's the best trade deal of all time.
Yeah,
let's put that out there. Electric bike to H2, beautiful. You love to see
Toaster.
it. You f***ed up, Toaster. So I ended up buying it. Sight unseen, never been on a motorcycle before either, and then I waited a few months for the bike to arrive. Not the smartest idea on how to buy a bike, but I love this bike, as you may know, and so I could probably sell it for $15K if I wanted to now. Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of those experiences, it's this kind of like sight unseen thing. You know, you're like, well, let me just try it out. Let me see if it's good, but I like putting hands on a bike.
Yep.
I like putting hands on a bike. Even if it's brand new, I want to touch it. I want to look at it. I want to see it.
Yep. I think we have time for one more here.
All right.
X2.
X2 says, for me, I've bought 3 used bike and 1 new bike. I bought my first bike, a 2015 CB300F, for $3,200, and I negotiated it down after seeing it. Worked well, and I had it for 5 months. Then I traded it in for the Vidpillen 701 at a dealership, and I bought it for $9,000 out the door, which was less than MSRP, and that's because it was a new old stock bike. 3 miles, 2019. That's the only way I would feel all right buying a brand new bike. Next 2 bikes are the KLX 250 and the Super Cub, which I bought both with less than 1,000 miles on them. 2020 KLX, and the guy didn't like it because he didn't do well at the sand dunes bone stock. What a guy. Super Cub had 655 miles on it, and the guy somehow still had a loan on it, so I was able to buy it for $3,450, and he sent me the title once it was paid off. It's a good deal on the Super Cub.
Yeah.
I always interview the sellers in roundabout ways to see if I can trust them, especially with the Cub since I left without the title. I'm all for buying used and jumping on deals when I know what I want. That's true. Buying used is always the way to go. I've bought a lot more used bikes than new bikes for myself.
Yeah, I don't know that I would buy another new bike unless I find one where I'm just like, I have to have it.
Yeah.
You know, I bought the KLR new because I could. It was cheap.
Yeah.
But if I'm buying another bike, it's probably going to be a nicer one. I'll just buy it used.
Yeah.
Because I was looking, there's this Roadster over at Dream Machines, and my God, oh, it's so gorgeous. And it's like 10 grand, and I'm like, oh, I want it. But, you know, used is always, I think it's preferable because then you don't have to worry about the break-in and all that stuff, and it's usually a lot cheaper.
Yeah. That Speed Triple that we got in the shop right now, that's one bike where I'm like, I could do some dumb shit. I could just buy one. I want one so bad. I'm like, I have no use for it. But I just, after taking it on track, I was like, oh, I love this bike. But yeah, catch and release. All right, folks, we're now going to move on to the YouTube comments portion of the podcast. Stick around. Alrighty, folks, now we are in the final section of the Yamcast. It is the YouTube comments section, and we are talking about none other than the Zero video, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we got so many comments on. I think this one's like record-setting, 1,300 or 1,500 comments at this point.
You know, the dirt bike video got about that many.
Damn.
That video's up to 1,500 comments.
And all of them are like, no, we'll watch the videos, we promise.
We're going to watch it. No, you won't. No, you won't. Shut up. You're not going to watch it because I know that. But we have some great comments here from the electric bike people on the Zero video. And nothing to it but to do it. Let's get into it.
Let's dive on in. So our first comment was found by Adronicus.
All right. So this person said, the worst part is that you are already paying for these features when you buy the bike hardware-wise. The company associates the cost of, let's say, the heated grips into the cost of the bike when it's sold because they can't lose that money if you never decided to pay for the feature. That was something I've been saying about it. So you're pretty much paying for heated grips hardware, and then they want you to buy the ability to use them after the cost of hardware is already associated with the bike on purchase. It has to be the scummiest sales tactic I've ever seen. Pretty much bought it 2 times. And that is exactly right. A dealership, or rather a manufacturer, is not going to walk away from all the cost of goods sold on putting that hardware on the bike.
Yeah.
And it's just that they're going to, basically charge you twice for it.
Yeah, it's interesting that I don't know who this tactic was for.
Yeah.
That would be willing.
I think there's some comments where we're going to see who it was for, because some people support this nonsense.
Yeah, so let's move on and see what we've got here. So this one is quite a comment.
All right.
10 Tails, rather.
This guy says, you're thinking of it backwards. It's always a $22,895, but they let you choose features that you don't want/need for a discount. And if you want to add those features at a later time, it's as easy as a software upgrade. Developing improved software and battery optimization isn't cheap, and making one bike or anything else with optional upgrades makes a lot more production sense and consumer sense than making different bikes. It's less wasteful and ultimately more efficient for everyone. The only issue is that the bike is massively expensive in general, not the pricing/upgraded model. Your last point about keeping an eye on defeaturing is legitimate, but that's a separate issue really. And if I remember correctly, that type of action has already been ruled illegal in multiple courts. So, a bit to unpack here. He's basically saying that this makes sense because you can make one bike and then have it a la carte for whoever wants it. But all that happens there, in my opinion, is everybody pays more.
Yes.
The consumer is losing.
The amount of zero apologia here is painful.
Yeah.
Because basically if you're actually thinking like this, you're willing to spend, I think the number was 27 grand, 28 grand on this bike, that's already not worth the 22,895 that we quoted it as, which I don't think either of us would be even remotely okay paying 15 grand, let alone 22.
No.
For this.
And this is the issue, is like you buy into something that's already expensive and then they're going to charge you the subscription bullshit on top of that, know? This subscription-based model stuff, it really, what it does, it just confuses the consumer's price visibility, right? So like basically you create a consumer that doesn't really quite understand what they should or should not be paying for. And when you have a consumer that doesn't have perfect price information, you get a wonky model where the supplier makes all the money and the consumer gets
the confusopoly.
Yep. You just confuse them until they just pay more. And that's what's happening.
So I will give you that what they're doing is not cheap, but that is the cost of making motorcycles. Developing motorcycles is an expensive thing, and if you can't figure out how to do that, you probably shouldn't be manufacturing motorcycles. Yeah,
everybody has to do it. It's why Suzuki still sells the SV650 the way it is.
And what he's also trying to get here is it's like rider choice. Rider choice. You could choose whether or not to have the heated grips. No, you can't.
Yeah,
you're still paying for
already
bought them.
Yeah,
you already bought the heated grips.
They're in there.
You just need to buy them again. To unlock them. So it's not rider choice.
Yeah,
which is bull. Next up, we've got Blue Baby.
Blue Baby here with a bit of a wild comment. Companies like this deserve to have their product weaponized against them since they weaponize it against the consumer. Hoping some heroic Zero owner goes Tesla mode and unleashes the thermal potential of his lithium battery on the Zero offices. Openly advocating for terrorism.
Yeah, that's not great.
Okay, that's a little crazy, all right? Look, we don't like the Zero scummy sales tactics, but I don't think their office deserves to be firebombed. That's kind of nuts. Yeah, I don't think they're weaponizing the product. That's a bit of a crazy verb to use.
Yeah, this dude has been down some rabbit holes, I think.
He has the anarchist cookbook on like quick draw from his bookshelf. That's pretty
like,
nuts.
all right, this one calls for pipe bomb. Here we go.
He's one of those people just looking for an excuse to do something crazy,
Moving on, we've got Stompy next with a chain here. This ought to be good.
All right, Stompy here with the chain. It says, you missed another big question. If you pay to unlock these features and sell it secondhand down the line, does the new owner get to keep the unlocked features, or do they have to buy them again?
That's
very
actually
good question.
Yeah.
Then they say, another person, maybe the unlocked features are connected to your app account so they can charge you a second time in case of new ownership. And then this other person says, no, they don't. I think they use an account system. If you open the app and put in your details plus the vehicle stuff, I think you would still need to pay to use those features. And then this guy says, can you imagine the awkward conversations between the original owner selling and the guy who wants to buy it used? So it has heated grips, right? Well, yes and no. Actually, yes, the bike has them and they work fine. So why say yes and no? They stopped working after it changes owner. What kind of witchcraft is that? I'm not into this voodoo shit. Let me go buy a Jixus Thou. That's a great point. I hadn't thought about that when we made the video. It's like, when you sell the bike, do those unlocked features go along with it?
Is it attached to the VIN or is it attached to you?
Again, that's why we said at the end of the video, do you own your Zero?
I don't think so.
I don't think you do.
So, very good question there.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Grand Dungeon Master Porp.
This person says, great episode and excellent info. I had a Zero for 2 years and just traded it in for a Touareg 660. Excellent trade deal. Never felt better getting rid of something. Stay clear of Zero. The Livewire by HD is a great bike, and I can see them making cheaper great bikes along with Energica. Zero's business model is pathetic. Damn, just an indictment of Zero.
Yep. This is one that we said in the video, is you get the full bike with the Harley. You get the full bike with the Energica.
Yeah.
So, hard to make the case for the Zero.
You get the whole bike with the Touareg.
Yeah, you sure do.
Yeah.
Infernal Saxon is next.
All right. This guy says, damn, I was seriously thinking of adding an electric bike to my garage, but these are all good points. Maybe I'll wait for some other bike manufacturers to create more competition in the market to keep others in check. I'm anxious to see how the new Triumph Electric turns out in production. And then this other person, or maybe him, says, maybe it's a good thing that Zero/Ural died, causing me to look into a home build. Can't imagine paying an extra to unlock the two-wheel drive already there. Also, if you're worried about a future brick and you already have the options you want, just disconnect the transmitter. I think, so this is something I saw a lot in the comments. You're like, bro, just hack it. Bro, just disconnect the transmitter. And I'm like, guys, like, it's a pretty sophisticated piece of technology. Like, not everyone's going to be able to, like, pop the seat open and be like, let me resolder this board really quick and disconnect the transmitter. I don't think it's that easy.
No, if it was, people would have, it would be out there that people were jailbreaking it.
Yeah.
It just would be a thing. Every time they mention the Cypher Store, somebody would talk about these white hats who are doing all this great work for the consumers out there. But no, it's just not. It's kind of like how the ZH2 still hadn't been cracked.
Yeah, and can you imagine, too, you buy one of these super expensive electric bikes and then you just gamble on, like, fucking resoldering the board. Or, I mean, you'll break it in a second, then you won't get anything for it.
Yup.
You go to the dealership, be like, what'd you do? Oh, yeah, that's not covered by warranty, obviously. Off.
Yeah. No. You can't fix anything on these bikes. So. The Lava Melon.
This person says, BMW Automotive is already doing this with their cars. They're not the only ones either. The worst with the auto industry in this is the monthly charge. It's not a one-time charge. Yeah, as we saw with BMW, they're like, pay $18 to have your butt heated. It's like, what dystopian nightmare is this?
Yeah.
What is this, dude? Yeah.
Kind of messed up stuff when you think about it. Moving on to Admiral Snack Bar.
This person's comment says, I think you're right to ask if you actually own the patch you downloaded. I remember a used Tesla owner being told the car he bought no longer had the function he told it had because the original owner bought it and it was not transferable. So, like, the original owner bought basically a license to use a thing on the thing he owns.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Which is...
That's insane. And it's crazy that some people, like, defend this bullshit.
Yeah.
Why? Why do you defend this? It's anti-consumer.
Because, it gives you the choice to buy the heated grips or something.
No. Shut the up.
Do you want that 2x range, or do you just have an extra, like, 4 hours in your pocket,
Yeah.
El Gibor.
This person said, might be some Italian pride speaking here, but it really looks like Energica is the king of the game on electric bikes nowadays. Zero really was a promising company until they came up with this BS. I honestly, like, I don't want to, like, say that our video, like, did a bunch of damage, but I did see a lot of comments basically being like, yeah, I'm not ever going to look at this Zero ever again, Yeah. I think, honestly, we put away a lot of customers.
I mean, rightfully so. I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending a Zero after hearing about the Cypher Store stuff.
No.
Matthew DFW.
All right, this was apparently all from the same person. It says, how is this different from having to pay extra for Öhlins instead of SAC suspension components, or paying a third party to put a new chip in the ECU for improved performance on your duck? Are you going to be anti-live wire as well? Oh dear God, what is your problem? So there's a big difference in having to pay for different hardware components. So, for example, for the example of like Öhlins versus SACs, right? So you can have a base model Ducati that has SACs or a V4S that has Öhlins. Those are two different motorcycles that have a different suspension component that you can choose which one you want to buy and fully own. That's the thing we're talking about here, is the full ownership. It's not like you buy a semi-active Olin suspension and then you have to pay to have the fucking thing work.
It's also worth pointing out the SAC suspension, perfectly functional, really good on its own.
Yeah.
It's already a really good suspension setup. They wouldn't put it on a Ducati if it wasn't.
Yeah.
And then you can just get Olins if you're being extra. That is consumer choice.
Yeah.
That is, you can choose, do you want the base model suspension, which is also really good, or do you want the like extra one, which got the wires coming out and you can flex it over?
Yeah.
And
the other thing about paying a third party to put a new chip in the ECU for improved performance, that's a government regulation.
It's a government regulation.
We cover that in the video. Like, the only reason those ECUs are choked up and the emissions are choked up is because the government says that they need to hit certain metrics and standards. Because I guarantee you, if Ducati could, they'd sell you a bike with a full pipe.
Mm-hmm.
They can't, though.
Make 240 horsepower.
Yeah. So, yeah. And as far as us being anti-Livewire, well, if the Livewire had, Cypher store bullshit, we'd be anti-Livewire as well. But
Absolutely.
It doesn't.
Yeah, no. We're not. A lot of people, I think this came out because we rode the Livewires and we loved the Livewires and we have this sort of relationship with Harley where they give us some bikes. We can say whatever the hell we want about these bikes.
Yeah.
The only thing that Harley cares about is if it's accurate.
Accurate. Yeah.
They want it to be accurate to the point where we actually had to put out a couple of corrections on videos just to make sure that we're covering our bases. But as long as the coverage is accurate, we can say whatever the hell we want.
And we've been very critical of Harley stuff.
Very critical.
Yeah.
You because you don't think it's a good value prop. Me because I'm just like, Harley, you could do so much better.
After riding the Pan Am, I feel the same way now. I'm like, yeah, this company can do anything it wants. It just chooses not to all the time.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Really frustrating. Not sure what the oh dear God, what's your problem was, but
yeah.
Z-Fang
here, the comment says, checks to see if EA is partnered with Zero. The king of microtransactions themselves, EA.
The CEO, Android Wilson, taking over. Oh boy. Heather and Performance. There we go.
All right. This person, Pogo here, says, question, can you increase the range of Zero by changing the gear ratio? I don't think so. I have no idea how that would work.
Honestly, first of all, it's a belt. So
yeah. We sound like if you put a bigger or smaller sprocket at the rear.
I guess you would theoretically...
Would that change anything?
You would be... If you reduce the sprocket size,
you have a higher top speed.
Theoretically, you have a higher top speed, but you're also lowering the speed that you're cruising at on the highway, the engine spinning at the highway.
Because you just get the one gear. I don't know.
Maybe. But I wouldn't. I mean, first of all, I'm never going to buy one of these motorcycles.
Do I look like an engineer? I don't fucking know what I'm doing. Paul then says, the next craze will be a virtual motorcycle. You can ride it in the metaverse, and then it will gain value as a collector's items, like NFTs. And then some ... about motorcycle ownership. Yeah, stuff like that's already happening in virtual ownership of things. Most people are figuring out it's all bullshit, so that's nice.
One of my favorite things was when real estate exploded in the metaverse, and then everybody was like, wait, why did I spend all that money on this?
You're like, wait a minute, they can just make more code and make the space bigger. Oh, it's not a scarce resource, is it? Weird.
I'm dumb. Let's going backwards. Jakers is next.
Jakers says, I bought a Zero S from a dealership, hoping they will take it back. Any help? They are not going to take it back.
Nope. They'll take it back at a lower price. You can sell it to them.
Yeah.
But they're going to ream you for it. DGII is next.
Okay, DGII here. As a gamer, I think I'd be okay with some minor features unlocked at certain odometer points. Ride 1,000 miles, unlock new display settings, things like that. But to have the features physically on the bike but inaccessible without some hefty cost is insulting. I honestly think that unless it's just like for fun little reward things, I don't want actual features unlocked by mileage. That's crazy.
No.
I don't want to earn my motorcycle's abilities.
Yeah.
That's weird.
You don't want to level your motorcycle. You don't want Dingrats Woo. You can turn it on now.
Yeah, no. I don't want that.
What thing could they hide behind an odometer reading on the bike that you would be okay. Like maybe like a theme.
That's what I think. A theme on the TFT. You know, something real silly and stupid.
Like the My Little Pony one is at 10,000 miles or something like that.
What's funny is that, I mean, the BMW S1000RR brand new kind of has that, where like you have to ride 600 miles and then it actually does unlock.
Well, that's because it's the freaking S1000RR, and BMWs do that with the R1250 GS, where if it's not warm, it won't let you rev it out.
Yeah.
So...
But those displays do run at like 300 billion FPS, which is nice.
The greatest TFT in the motorcycling industry.
Really nice TFT.
X2, I believe this is the last one.
It says it's not just the software updates. That motor, it has a controller. If it dies, bike no go. You can't just buy another one off the shelf. You need Zero to sell you one. If you happen to live in some Antipodean country, like a crazy word. I've never heard that word. Antipodean country, like New Zealand. Good luck getting any Zero dealer to talk to you about it. One dead custom chip and your bike is a wheeled brick. That to me seems to be the real risk. Yeah, I think there's a real risk in that, you know, these bikes could just end up being a brick pretty much. You know, you have to always go back to Zero, always go back to the manufacturer for anything, really.
Yeah, and that's where you get into the right to repair stuff, which there's what you get to do on that Zero. You're going to swap the J. Juan brakes for the Brembos and call it a day?
Yeah.
No, I really don't like electric bikes in that sense, because if they sit and they go bad, they're screwed. And batteries have a lifespan. It's a lot shorter than an ICE engine.
They do. Yeah, it's a lot shorter. Someone on chat here with a great comment says, I wonder if Zero's next idea will be to push advertisements to a person's bike as they ride.
Oh my God. Don't even give them the idea, dude.
It's already happening at gas stations. It drives me insane.
Oh, GSTV? You not a big fan?
Or like when I boot up my laptop and there's like on Mozilla some like advertisement in the browser and I'm like, stop. Oh my God.
This is why I have like 1,000 subscriptions every month, because I hate ads. I have YouTube Red. I have the Netflix thing. I have Hulu Premium.
I have the YouTube thing as well, but my fiance doesn't. And so when she looks up something on YouTube, I'm like, how do you live like this? What is this? What's happening? There's like pop-ups everywhere, and before I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, my girlfriend was watching a video. She cast it to the TV, and it was a YouTube video, and it paused every like 5 minutes for an ad. And I was like, no, this is not okay.
It's so cheap. YouTube Premium is like, I think $10 or something.
And you get the whole YouTube music library. Just pay for shit, people.
It's so worth it. It's so worth it.
If you just pay, then we won't have ads literally everywhere.
Yeah.
It's because everybody wants for free nowadays.
And don't worry, we still get paid as YouTube creators when you pay for YouTube Premium, so you're not like taking money away from us or anything. Yeah, but if you love the Yamcast, head over to yamanoo.co and support us for as little as $5 a month. Join the Discord, access to all of our exclusive streams, giveaway bikes, and all of our awesome discounts on Twisted Road and the Gear Shop. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later. Well, look at you. You've made it to the end of another Yami Noob video. You should consider yourself pretty lucky, because I have curated this one right over here for you to continue watching. It's probably just as good as the one you just saw. Unless you hated the one you just saw. I don't know, maybe leave me a comment down below about how much you hated it as well too. Or just keep watching this one. Make sure you keep watching Yami Noob. Don't forget to keep watching Yami Noob. That's the most important thing. Keep watching Yami Noob.